Well, it wouldn't be an anniversary show if I didn't fuck up the audio. Welcome everybody to Better on Draft. I'm Matt.
He
I'm
wasn't
a basic
recording.
host. No, we were recording, but everybody else was talking, so I'll go through. Wendy, you've got that Parish beer that's high octane that you're going to be putting a cork in later. Matt, you're drinking the Surges as well as the Hip Hop Anonymous from Copper Hop. Nick is finishing his Two Roots. Thank you so much to our Twitch viewer who saw that. I appreciate you very much. I'm going to be, thankfully, since I'm not drinking tonight, I can do all the audio editing because tomorrow is a day I just don't want to do anything. So I'm going to be enjoying absolutely nothing. I might still smoke a cigar tonight. Usually Friday nights are my
Wait,
cigar thing. What's up?
what are you doing tomorrow?
Nothing. And I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
So, yeah. I want to share you guys something because I want to see if it works at the end of the show tonight. But I did purchase something for myself. Something that I'm like, maybe it's probably good to have, especially for, as we were talking earlier about the times where we probably have drank and not have driven. And there is a little thing you can buy that's, I believe, 60 or 70 bucks on Amazon. And you could tie it to your phone if you need to, but it's a little pocket breathalyzer that tells you what your BAC is at any time. No, it's not to try to get the high score, which I think it's going to be a race between Matt and Wendy tonight between the high octane beers and the Surge seltzers, to say the least. But yeah, for only 60 bucks, this is probably going to save someone a lot of money if you go out and buy it. Obviously, if you still get pulled over and you're blowing, zero point zero 0.04 or 0.05, you could still get in trouble. But yeah, obviously, just something a little fun that I wanted to purchase for myself with that extra toast money that I got going on right now. Those fuckers. I mean, nice people. So there is speaking of seltzers, a seltzer tap room going up. And this is going to be by a seltzer maker, Truly, over in Los Angeles. They're going to be creating
You mean Sam Adams? Sam Adams.
Boston Beer Co.
Yep.
What did I say?
Truly. By maker, Truly. It's
Truly.
let's get. I mean, they always do these. They're the kings of putting it on a different company. They did the whole Angry Orchard, Sam Adams. Twisted Tea, Sam Adams. Like Sam Adams has more branches than fucking Bud Light does at this point. And it's always the same fucking thing. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No. So they're doing a 8,000 square foot venue in LA that's going to be adjacent to their Angel City brewery that they own. Truly is currently the number 2 selling seltzer in the country behind White Claw. The site's going to have 12 taps, cocktails, and a small food menu. So my question to you guys, obviously I think all of us have drank seltzers at one point. I know Matt is the seltzer king. Would you go to a seltzer-only tap room?
Yes. Okay, so I've learned there. So my favorite seltzer is actually called Press, and I don't like it because it's a flavor, but they put in spices. So they have like a cardamom seltzer, they have a ginger seltzer, a basil seltzer. So they don't just go into the same realm of blueberry, cranberry, jackberry, cumberry, stupid fucking berry. They elaborate. They kind of like get outside the box. So if I could have, like, I like seltzers because they're like ready to drink cocktails. Like I can have a gin and tonic, or I could just have a lime, seltzer. Same thing. So there's got to be a line of differentiation. Because you blow your palate out. It's like going to an IPA fest. You can't just have IPAs the whole time.
I mean, that's what you think. A lot of people would love an IPA.
Well, you can. I went to a festival a couple weekends ago that I really thought was going to be all IPAs, and they had such a good variety. I was very impressed.
Well, obviously, my feelings on IPAs, but no, if it's a tap room, like if I'm going to go to a tap room, I'm going to want a variety of things like seltzer. I love having seltzer at a bar or a brewery, but that's just not the only thing that I want to drink. Like I'm going to want to drink something with a little bit, as Matt says, a little bit more flavor. I need something that's just more than just faint fruit there. Nick, you're in deep thought over there. You gonna be able to crush do a 12 drink flight of seltzer only?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Do you remember we went to was it the UP Fest that we went to like 4 years ago, and like the Coney truck was 45-minute wait.
It was 45-minute wait to order, and then another like 30 minutes to get your food.
Yeah, so I think that would be the biggest issue of a Coney Fest or of a Fizz Fest, because they have those here, don't they? Royal Oak has the Fizz Fest or whatever they're calling it.
There's actually a traveling seltzer festival that's going on right now that I saw Wes over at Oddside posting about. I think the nearest ones to us was like Chicago and Columbus.
So like, while I like the seltzers, it's like my same criticism on dark beers. There's only so many things you can do with stouts. You know, you can add adjuncts you want, but it's always going to be a dark, malty, thick beer. Same thing with seltzers. It's always going to be a fizz with some sort of flavor. Like, unless you're putting in some flavor that, like, from Mars that no one's ever had, like, it's the same fucking shit. So, you know, it's going to be the same. Like, that's why the big guys are so good at it, because it's just about marketing. Come drink my fizzy water, and you like this flavor already. Like, you drank this in Kool-Aid as your mom, so take it. Take it.
Well, speaking of seltzers, it looks like Anheuser-Busch is getting into some heat for their Cacti Seltzer. Matt, what's your opinion on the Cacti Seltzers?
I don't think I've had the Cacti Seltzer. I had the Prickly Pear Michelob Ultra. I
do like the organic Mich Ultra seltzers. Those have been some of my favorites for the different styles that I've had. But there is a class action lawsuit regarding Cacti. The class action lawsuit against AB claims that consumers who drank the beverage, they say contained agave spirits rather than agave sweetener. The initial statement from Anheuser-Busch says that it was made with 100% premium blue agave from Mexico, but a follow-up press release clarified that it was made with syrup and no actual tequila.
I've had two really bad seltzers. One was the Labatt Seltzer is terrible, like worse than terrible. And the Cacti Seltzer, which is called Cacti.
That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, it tastes like Robitussin. Yeah, it's like Robitussin with like bubbles.
So I guess the question is that how can you make a good... I feel like Matt hit it on the head, and it needs to be more ready-to-drink cocktails that are available. Because to me, all the ready-to-drink cocktails that are available are just way too sweet. And I want something that's like a good combination of what a hard seltzer is, but what the flavor of what a cocktail is that's not just pure sugar. Because that's what there's... What's the one in Holland? Coppercraft? Their ready-to-drink cocktails are just so sweet all the time that I never want to buy them. I loved their cocktails at the actual distillery itself, but I never want to buy one of those RTDs that are just there. But I mean, go on, Wendy.
One of the ready to drink cocktails that I've tried over the summer was the Knob Creek Old Fashioned, and it is a little sweeter than a normal old fashioned would be, but it was very good. The other versions or the other things that I had from that line, though, was like a Cosmo that was really sweet. Like, I wouldn't have been able to drink it if I was at the bar. I had to cut it in order to drink it here.
I'm in the same boat. I can't do RTDs. Like, for some reason, the TGA Fridays Long Island Iced Tea RTD was super popular, but it like got canceled because I don't know, Power wasn't buying enough SKUs. But when it comes to seltzers, I think it needs, and there isn't a scale for this yet, but for the fizz, like when you see an IPA at a brewery, you have an IBU scale, right? How bitter it is. There needs to be a fizzmometer. You know what? We should take the 68th version to figure out the name of the calculation of fizz. You want to call it a fizzmometer? A fizzstum? a Fizz RM. Like we can figure it out. But
Why can't it just be an IFU, an International Fizz Unit?
okay, way to be boring with it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But because
I'm being practical, not boring.
I think let's get physical. Okay, a physical scale, right?
I swear to God, if we were in the studio, I would have muted you for that one.
But like the difference between seltzers now is how much fizz to syrup ratio. Because I mean, it's all puree or syrup or whatever. So like, I prefer the fizziers. You know, like a White Claw is fizzier than a Truly, and I think that's why White Claw sells more, because I think you prefer the fizzier. But if you get into certain seltzers, it basically tastes like I'm gonna say something that's kind of inappropriate here. Go figure. It's like Channel 77 porn where it's all bubbly and like blacked out on your tongue. Where it's like too much fizz. You know, does that make sense?
No.
There's like, it's like there used to be a energy drink called cocaine.
Yeah, I do know that energy drink.
Yeah. And that was like Dr. Pepper, like to the billionth degree. Like it was terrible. It burned your tongue the entire way down. It was
Did you just say Dr. Pepper is terrible?
I hate Dr. Pepper.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Matt.
That's the only soda I'll still drink.
What stuff are you smoking? What the
Dr.
hell?
Pepper's just half Jägermeister, just 2x Jägermeister.
Dr. Pepper tastes nothing like licorice. Like
I should
what?
kick you out of here
Dr. Pepper
right
is
now.
2x
for saying
Jägermeister.
that.
Jägermeister has 23 spirits or 23 spices. Dr. Pepper has 56. It's the same. It's the same fucking thing. It's just twice the levels.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sure I should mute you right now. Oh, I already did that once during the break.
I don't even know where to go from there. That was just so rude.
Wow.
Me not liking. Hold on. Is it me that I don't like Dr. Pepper, or that I have a physical scale?
No, that you don't like Dr. Pepper.
But you don't like Dr. Pepper. Yeah. Yeah, your fizz scale.
Not one of us can wrap our head around that. The fizz scale makes sense. I get that.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go from there. You literally just derailed my entire mojo.
I don't know how Dr. Pepper is this popular. I don't get it.
What's your opinion on
delicious.
Mr. Pibb then?
I don't think I've ever consumed Mr. Pibb.
Oh my God.
I don't like the spiced sodas.
All right, we're gonna challenge you. Go ahead, Wendy.
Just go to Chipotle.
So I get what he's saying about Dr. Pepper tastes like Jaeger, because I believe that a Jaeger bomb tastes like Dr. Pepper.
No, Jaeger and Dr. Pepper have the same spices in it.
How do you know that?
Because
one is 26 and the other one's 52?
Yeah, it's.
How do you know that it's the same spices?
Do your research, okay?
Can we put a disclaimer on Matt's picture saying, this has not been fact-checked?
No, Zuckerberg's already going to do that.
Matt does not reflect the views of this podcast.
I was going to say, the only thing I know that involves alcohol that involves a Dr. Pepper is 151 Amaretto and Lager.
Well, 151. Yeah.
Oh, dear God.
That's the Flaming Dr. Pepper. You guys never did a Flaming Dr. Pepper growing up?
I can't drink 151 anymore.
Talk about disappointment and demonizing alcohol. You get people who drink or buy 151 shots for people.
151 was my drink of choice for a long time. And by a long time, I mean like 3 to 5 years. I can't do it anymore.
I had a summer of Everclear where somebody went to Wisconsin and bought a bottle of actual Everclear. It's like 98 proof, right? And they're like, "Oh, I can't drink this." So I bought it from them for like $20, and it was a shot. It was a liter of Diet Mountain Dew and 2 shots of Everclear, like twice a week, and that was my party drink. And I eventually finished that bottle.
I speaking of disrespecting alcohol, for me, I would always get a fifth of whiskey, a double gulp of Sprite, and make myself basically a 7 and 7, and that's what I would drink all night, is just sip on that. Like, one, I don't have to go refill or anything like that. Like, when I was drinking alcohol, like if I knew I was staying at a friend's house or something like that and I could get sloppy, I got sloppy. But it was also always a pain in the ass to buy beers because it was probably their parents' fridge and they don't want beer in their parents' fridge and accidentally leave it in there. But yeah, I was definitely buy a 2 liter and then just pour out some of the Sprite, dump in half or more of the fifth of whiskey, and go. Oh, the dumb things I did growing up.
What was your whiskey of choice, though?
Usually at that point, like Canadian Club or
Corby's, McMaster's.
No,
Corby's.
Yeah, whatever.
He was young; it was cheap.
It was like $18 for a fifth or something like that. Like dirt
Corby's
cheap.
is like $7 a fifth. Black 7-star.
No, I never went that low. Like I never went rail, like bottom of the barrel. Like I at least went to the second step of the whiskey.
There was a time at Central, I would literally go to the store, and they would sell you a gallon jug. You would find milk in, but it was just Kool-Aid. And they would then, for $1, maybe $1.50, and you could also get a fifth of White Claw for like $5. So for the weekend, you would just like pour, drink.
White
and
Claw?
it was for $7. 5 o'clock vodka.
Okay.
Oh God. I never heard of Corby's until you said something, Matt.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I looked at that. I'm like, yeah, that just looks bottom of the barrel to begin with.
It's the worst thing you'll ever have. It's like your doctor's like, I'm not even gonna use that as rubbing alcohol.
Yeah, I think I always just went with Canadian Club because that was always usually what was available when, like, at family parties and stuff, if I would try to sneak something. So I just went with what I knew. I didn't know anything else. Sorry.
That Canadian blend of whiskey fucks me up, man. I can't drink that. If you give me a shot of Crown Royal right now, I will vomit immediately. I'll have nothing in my stomach, but you'll have all of the contents of it.
I mean, but Crown season's coming up.
It depends on the Crown. Like, I could still do Crown these days. That's my godfather's drink of choice is Crown Royal. So for literally Father's Day and Christmas, he gets jelly beans and Crown Royal from me. That's all he gets. That's all he wants. So that's all he gets. And usually he'll crack open the Crown Royal and we'll both do a shot together. And that's that's Christmas, or that's Father's Day. So that Crown always has a little part of me that I'll always love. But I mean, you guys have seen the kind of whiskey that I drink now. Like I'm spending $40 on a shot at a bar, and I'm A-okay with it because it's good whiskey. But I also rarely mix my whiskey anymore. I was mixing when we were doing Bingo Square keto, and I was at the studio because it was a lot easier just to drink the whiskey and then have like little shots of beer to taste the beer that the guests had. And I mean, now I'm still drinking. I got the Ritual right here, and I'm drinking it with the burners, and it's going down pretty smooth. Little burn. I think it's definitely too old. It says it's only good for 6 months, and this is 18 months later, but we're here doing it. I'm doing it for the pod, for you guys, the fans, the listeners, the viewers. I don't have too much else to talk about for the show. I do know that I asked Wendy and Nick to think of a topic to come up with for the show. So I will see if either of them had a topic to bring to discuss for tonight.
I do.
Wendy, take it away.
So I'm curious as to what your favorite memory from the show has been.
Favorite memory from the show? Oh, geez.
I mean, I've got one easily.
Is it the 5th anniversary where you gifted us Carol fucking Baskin?
Well, no, no.
It may or may not have been mine.
Fair. That was clever as shit.
It was.
It was very, very cool.
Where she went off on a tangent about her daughter and boyfriend who love craft beer in the middle of the cameo. Like, oh, thanks.
Did you guys hear, speaking of Carol Baskin, did you see that there's a Tiger King 2 coming out?
Yes, I did see that.
Okay, all right.
I think our best moment was, my favorite moment was, it was post Beer Fest, probably post Beer Fest number 2 in 19, where we did a podcast after the Beer Fest. Or it was the first Beer Fest where we thought, holy shit, we can actually do this. You remember that?
Are you talking the
At Jimmy John's?
Jimmy
like
John's,
the first
okay.
time that we had a beer, or honestly, I'll take that back. My favorite Better on Draft moment was like March of 2018. Okay, more March of 2017. It was that March, and we figured out we were going to launch the Stout 16. We figured it out, and I was engaged at the time. Terrible idea for me. And I'm at a tiki bar in Florida with my then fiance, and we had 587 followers, and my phone's blowing up. But ding, 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 ding. And by the end of the day, by the end of that week, we had like 3,000 followers. I think that was I think that was the accomplishment. And then I felt like that was the whole like Panic at the Disco. Hey, look, Mom, I made it kind of moment we had.
Yeah, the explosion and the hatred I hated for Stout 16 for trying to teach old people how to use Facebook. How do you like it? How do you like it with a laughing emoji or a crying emoji? I'm like, oh my God, how do you do it on your phone? I remember recording at the studio one day. I took somebody else's phone to record me doing it, and then took my phone, I think, to record Nick's phone on how to do it on the iPhone. And it was just such a pain in the ass for that, which I'm glad we did the polls last year in 2020, but I think they got rid of polls on Facebook, so we're going to have to come up with something else. But the one thing I always loved about the Stout 16 March Draftness is what we call it now, because we've had way more than 16 teams. That, and everyone was like, what stouts are we talking about? I'm like, it's not a fucking stout. It's just a slogan. Is that every brewery that's participated in the March Draftness, the Stout 16, has wanted to be there. We never had a brewery, cidery, meadery, creator that did not want to be there. It wasn't like how Freep does it, where they just, throw up all 300 something breweries and say go. We wanted them to participate, and I think that's why it's been such a crazy ride with all of our events at Baffin or Brewery 424, where the winners get a chance to kind of celebrate their win with their fans. And that's why I love the second win by Baffin, where they kind of just only told the Mug Club members what was going on, and didn't open it to the public. And the same with 424, where it was all their friends,
regulars.
Yeah, it was their regulars that got the chance to do it. Again, we still had 2 years ago the Filipino incursion, I'll call it, of Blake's versus Brewery 424, where the head of marketing at that time at Blake's was from the Philippines. She shared it on her Facebook, and her family went to town voting for them. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I agree. I think the March Draftness is some of your best work, Matt.
Some of? I mean, I had a lot of.
That's why I said some of your best work.
But I
was saying you had a lot of good work, Matt. Take the fucking compliment and run. I
really liked that we had that beer fest. I mean, we were super unqualified for it. We had We had no business to run a beer fest.
Still have no business.
But we had the contacts, and we went from 6 breweries to 20 breweries in a week because they knew fucking Ken and the podcast, and we made it easy for them. And then we had the Better on Draft Beer Fest at Jimmy John's Field, and we went from knowing nothing and having no contacts to just fucking being there. And we were a struggling podcast. They would just film our shoes and people shitting on us in lobbies of podcast studios, to having our own full on beer fest.
People blowing us up on 4chan and 8chan and all that.
Well, you can't. No, don't go to 8chan, because then you go to QAnon territory.
QAnon territory.
Nick, what about you? What's your favorite moment? I mean, you've been here from the get-go.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad that we're not using, moments from the actual show, but just being part of the show and part of the brand. One of my favorite. Well, first and foremost, the Jimmy John's beer festivals are top notch. They're the best. And it's just fun overall, just good fun. For me, I think one of my favorite times being a part of this show or being part of the brand was No Rules Day, one of the last ones that we went to.
Yeah, that was great.
I know it was, and I went. I don't know, Wendy. I don't know why you couldn't, or if you might have had a previous.
It was right before I came on.
Right before you came on. I remember it was Ken, Matt, and we hopped in a car. We drove to Comstock.
Rob was there too.
Rob was already there, and he was already scoping the entire event out, taking pictures and everything. We did an hour plus recording before the whole thing started. And next thing you know, we are inside the event, and it was just all good fun. And to be a part of that was pretty special. And that was fun for me. So.
Elaborating on what Nick's saying, I think the best part of having been on the show was you can run around any event without a ticket, without any sort of credentials, but they knew who you are and they just let you do it. Like when we were at Comstock, we could walk around, like we didn't have to stand in line. Like Ken, that's when they started those what are they called? Their seltzers, their breakwaters or whatever.
Clear
Coast. It's got a new name now, by the way.
Yeah, they were terrible. But like they had a cigar thing that you cut and you were smoking, but like we could walk around the whole place. Like it felt like we had like the Mario star on us. Like we could walk anywhere we wanted to. They were just like, oh, that's better on draft. They're good. Just like the same thing with Jimmy John's. Like we could go wherever we wanted. We could go in, we could go out. We just say, oh, we're the better on draft guys. And they were like, oh yeah, you're good to go. Like,
yep.
To be honest, like even when we did, I mean, Nick wasn't there and Wendy wasn't either. And that's not a disparagement about what I'm saying is like me, Ken, you drove Ed, Jenna, and myself we started at Becker, then we went to
Aberrant.
Block, and then we went to somewhere else. Then we went to Old Nation, and we did like a beer tour, Aberrant. And we just did like 3 interviews in a day. We drank a bunch of beer. We had a good time. Like just being able to like roll in with our dicks out and saying, hey, no, we're better on draft. We can just do this. Like, I mean,
we should totally do a better on draft beer tour.
Yeah, for when things.
I'll talk to you about it later.
When things come back later, I think we'll definitely be getting back on the road and talking to people. But as Matt says, and that's the thing is, it's not. It's for the fact of the amount of time, effort, and promotion that we do within the industry that a lot of people give us back in kind a lot of these benefits. We do a lot of reviews and promotions, and when somebody, even if they don't give us any, like no questions asked if somebody messages us, which we get a lot from a couple different breweries that say, hey, can you promote this? I'm going right on Facebook and I'm sharing an event, I'm sharing a thing, because our job here at Better on Draft is to promote the industry. The Michigan industry specifically, but we've definitely branched out a lot more within the last year and a half as COVID hit, and I think that's my favorite and least favorite thing all in one, because I miss the studio. The studio was a great place to bring people in. We're still trying to figure out how we're doing this remote, but in studio you get a chance to play against each other, and the crosstalk during the breaks was always fun. And getting people in, like I just saw our 4-year anniversary episode with Elk Brewing, and it was like, oh my god, that was so much fun when Elk was in studio. They came all the way from the west side of the state, and of course they stayed overnight and got a chance to go. But for me, like my still to this day, like my favorite moment within the industry is, honest to God, getting a true sit down with John Mallett. That John Mallett interview was just one of the most like honest, truthful, great times I've had on this show. And it's still one of my favorite interviews, still one of my favorites to go back and listen to, especially the Oberon conversation. But yeah, like that's easily my favorite, Better on Draft show moment. What about you, Wendy?
So I have a couple of favorite moments. One of the coolest things that I think I've been able to do as part of the show is the Women in Beer forum that we did. I loved being able to give a variety of women from the industry just a chance to talk about their experience. And I feel kind of kindred to the people who are on the show. Like I want to go out and visit them and support their breweries and what they're doing in the industry. I just think it's fantastic that we are able to do something like that. As far as just part of being a part of the podcast, I think my favorite part would have to be when we were at the Zane Lamprey show. And Ken's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. We were at the Zane Lamprey show at Downey Brewing last month, and we had just gone back to talk to Zane, and we came back in, and somebody was like, "Hey, you're that girl from that show," while I was standing with Ken. And we had a conversation about it, and Ken made a comment, and he's like, "Oh, are you on the show too?" And I was like, kind of the guy in charge. that was it. It really tickled me that in all fairness, he knew me from my home base at the time, so that's probably why he recognized me as well. But I just thought that was the funniest thing. It tickled me pink. I'm not gonna lie.
It's always fun when you get that look, and especially it happened recently over at Ashley's, and I had my mask on because it was COVID, and somebody had recognized my voice, and I'm like, oh wow. And it's kind of a cool feeling you get. But that's going to do it. 6 years strong, Better on Draft podcast. If you're listening to the pod or via the YouTube, head on over to our Instagram and check out. We're going to be doing a King of the Hill as well as 5 questions with Matt Bush. But you can only, if you're not listening to it live, see it on our Instagram TV. That's going to do it. Better on Draft 268, 6-year anniversary. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Better on Draft. Peace.